A boy was born to a Christian mother and an unbelieving father. Though the mother did a heroic job of introducing him to the Catholic faith, he chose a life of hedonism and partying. He was guilty of petty theft, embraced a different religion, and at 17 fathered a child out of wedlock with a woman he was cohabitating with. He even dared to pray, "Grant me chastity, Lord, but not just yet." 21st century story? No, but rather the story of St. Augustine, born in the 4th century, and his mother St. Monica's persistence that brought him back to the faith. Over the next 3 Sundays, I want to share with you some insights from Brandon Voigt, the author of the book Return: How to Draw Your Child Back to Church. We are all too familiar with the grim statistics of people, especially our children and grandchildren, leaving the church, and we are looking for answers and an approach. Brandon begins by putting to rest some myths that we believe about our fallen away brethren. First, we cannot passively wait for them to get married, have children, and then return. The main reason is that people are delaying both marriage and childbearing. Second, bringing them to Mass and sending them to Catholic school or faith formation is no guarantee that they forge a relationship with Christ. The parents' encouragement and witness are crucial in demonstrating how to be a friend to Jesus. Third, parents have some influence on their child dropping out of the faith, but it is doubtful that you are to blame. The reason is you influence, not control your children, who are endowed with free will. It's their decision, and we have to help them realize that. Fourth, a fruitful dialogue about the faith begins by listening to where they are at, not telling them where they have fallen short. And don't be afraid to ask them questions, such as what bothers them most about the Catholic moral teachings, or what has changed your mind that God exists. Fifth, God hasn't given up on them, and neither should we. That's what the story of the prodigal son from today's gospel teaches us. The younger son said, "Father, give me the share of your estate that should come to me." An inheritance is normally handed over only when a parent passes away. This was an insult to the father's love. What Jesus is saying in this parable is, I have the heart of a parent, and I know how you feel when your children leave the church. In the father's house, the son had everything, but on his own he wandered into the nothings. But this is often a hard lesson learned from experience. He eventually squandered everything. Then he hit rock bottom for a Jew, hiring himself out to a Gentile, a non-believer, and feeding forbidden swine. He was lost, but came to his senses, and remembered what he had left, and decided to go home. The father waited and watched for the son to come home, for he saw him a long way off. Then the father ran and welcomed him home. This means our God actively searches for the lost. We might think that God would take us back if we grovel and beg for forgiveness, but the father is just overjoyed to have him back. The father embraced him and put a ring on his finger, thus restoring his former status as son. After Adam and Eve sinned, God didn't seek vengeance. He sought them. This is why we cannot give up on our prodigal children, who have wandered from the faith. So what are some reasons our children leave? First, some drift away over time or because of culture, and they may practice infrequently, like at Christmas and Easter. Second, apathy. They don't know what they're missing because they don't care. C.S. Lewis wrote, "Christianity, if false, is of no importance, and if true, of infinite importance. The one thing it cannot be is moderately important." Third, some people say they are spiritual but not religious, meaning they are not interested in a quote-unquote regulated faith. Fourth, they take issue with the church's stance on certain moral topics, such as contraception, abortion, same-sex marriage, etc. Fifth, some don't feel spiritually fed and try to seek it in another denomination. Sixth, some are skeptical if God exists and or if science is compatible with religion. Now that we know why they left, there are 5 mistakes that we must avoid if we want them to return. First, don't force someone to go to Mass. Mass is the fruit of a relationship with Jesus. And if one takes the Eucharist in an unprepared spiritual state, St. Paul said, we eat and drink condemnation against ourselves. Second, don't criticize someone's lifestyle or behavior, because it is generally a symptom, not the sickness. Pope Francis said that before we can bring someone to the Church's moral teachings, we must let them know of the saving love of God. Third, nagging never works. It usually just hardens someone's position. St. John Paul II said, the Church proposes, she never imposes. So keep inviting. Fourth, listen to their objections. Dismissing them as not real or important only shows disrespect. Fifth, don't assume that we can change them. We sow seeds in a variety of hearts, ranging from rocky to fertile, and God does his best to make it grow. Remember, God has a greater stake in bringing them back to the Church. St. John Paul II said, entire groups of the baptized have lost a living sense of the faith, or even no longer consider themselves members of the Church, and live a life far removed from Christ and his gospel. In this case, what is needed is a new evangelization, or a re-evangelization. Next week, we will explore how we can re-evangelize the fallen away. In the meantime, share a sense of Pope Francis's message of mercy. He said, God's face is the face of a merciful Father who is always patient. He understands us. He waits for us. He does not tire of forgiving us, if we are able to return to him with a contrite heart.